PowerPoint that I'm going to share.
Okay.
So that everyone can access it. I'll send it to you as well, Michelle, but it's just so that they can access it during the talk if they want. So just in case it's not clear or anything on screen.
Cool.
Sorry, my computer is broke, so my camera is now up here on this other one. So I may not look like I'm looking at you, but it's all good.
I know you're there.
Okay, let's see if we can. It's always when you're doing a talk on IT or something related that you have difficulties.
I know. There's no rush anyway.
Yeah, it's not letting me share.
Bananas. It's a PowerPoint, is it?
Yeah.
Do you want to bounce it over to me and I'll see, can I share it?
That actually would probably be the easiest thing if that's okay, and I can just
Yeah, can you transfer it to my
slide.
Embryonic?
Sure.
Unless it will send straight across an email.
Might do, yeah. I don't think it's too large. Hang on, I'll check it and see. Might want to pause the recording. This bit's gonna be fairly boring for them.
Okay, and now I'm going to try to share. Where is the share screen thingy? Oh, there it is. Okay, 1 second here. Okay, are we there?
Yes, I think so. I think that's worked this time.
Okay, so I just have to flick this for you, do I?
Yeah, I can just say next slide or something if that makes it
Excellent.
easy for you.
That is perfect. Fantastic. Ah, I've already gone too far ahead. Okay. Here we are again, and this is CJay. Past our technical difficulties.
Awesome. And do we think that's everybody? Should we get started?
Yeah,
then?
I think get going because we're going to record it and they're going to get it anyway if they miss 5 minutes. But yeah, let's get going.
Okay, perfect.
Cool.
Okay. Okay, so you can go to the next one. That was just while we were waiting.
Okay. Except for that I can't for some reason. There we go.
Okay, so I don't know, some of you may have heard me speak the last time on assistive technology and AAC kind of stuff. So some of these little bits might be a bit familiar to you, but hopefully not too boring. So my name is CJay, or CJay, and I just thought I might introduce myself a little bit. So these are my axolotls in the bottom half of the screen. So they're like an interest of mine and something that I really enjoy. Millie, my dog, who may appear behind me at some point because she often does that, especially if I get overexcited. And then this is Lewin, a little boy that I started doing some of this technology stuff with as well, and some of the reason that I kind of got into a lot of what I do. So I work in an autistic school, and they literally today was the last day, but unfortunately I wasn't able to be there, which was a little bit disappointing. One of the kids accidentally fractured my foot. So it's been a long like 2 weeks or whatever, but I miss it terribly, and I think it made me realize that the passion I have for this stuff, I already knew I enjoyed it, but when I'm not working I really miss it as well. So that's kind of a good thing, I guess. So I'm coming at this from an angle of somebody who has used the technology myself. I am verbal, as you can tell, but there are times where I will really struggle to get words out and things, and this is where I can find AACs are really helpful. Also, an AAC doesn't have to be a device. Today's one we're talking about is a device, and I'll tell you a bit more about that after. But one of the ones that I use a lot, and I was shown it the last time, is this little keychain. Don't know if you can see it. But basically you can spin to what you kind of need and point. So there's different things like home, good, bad, water, food, toilet. Really simple little thing, but really helpful. So yeah, so that's kind of like the start of it. So then we can go to the next one. Okay, so this is just like a big wordy definition of what AT is, which is assistive technology, or AAC, which is the communication devices we're gonna kind of use. So I just wanted to have it in there. But basically, in like layman's terms, I think is the expression, AT is assistive technology. So anything that you can use that literally helps you in your day to day. So like I have a fidget and that really helps me and stuff in kind of my day to day. It could be around communication or different things as well. Something like a stair rail is assistive technology. So we all use assistive tech, and that's something that I want to make sure we really get across. We may not all use AACs, which is our devices or like paper or things we touch to kind of communicate. But there's so many ways to communicate. I think it's really important that we remember that as we go into this, and how important it is that for some people, this may be their main way of communicating their voice. So it's really important that we listen and we try to get to terms with it, no matter how difficult it may seem at first. But if we persevere, it can kind of get easier. So fair play for being here, for whatever reason that is, whether it's a child or someone that you work with or something. It's just something that's really important, and important that we all get a voice and a say. So that's kind of how I wanted to start off this thing. And no question is stupid, so please pop them in the box. Feel free to ask. I will try to remember to check it. So you can go to the next one. Okay, so the benefits of AAC. I've kind of mentioned a lot of this as well, but it's communication for everybody, basically, as well. So we can increase independence in, for an example, I could ask the child or my friend or anybody, like, do you want apple juice or orange juice? It's given choice when they are able to let me know which one they would like, right? So it's the same with a device. But if I don't ask that person, would you like a drink? They might be really thirsty and might not feel comfortable telling me, or might not know how to. So an AAC can help that. Also, the little boy who hurt my foot, that was complete communication issues, and he just got really upset and frustrated, and it came out the wrong way, and it ended in an accident. So actually, in my opinion, it can really decrease a lot of behaviors and stuff and frustrations that, if you're in another country and you're trying to speak the language or you don't know how to ask for something like the bathroom, it's very difficult and very, very frustrating. So imagine that on a day-to-day basis if we don't take in how important the AACs are and not just giving somebody what we think they want, and it can be helpful in classrooms. It's really customizable. There's a lot of benefits to it. I'm a big advocate for it, but yeah. So you can go next. Oh yeah, and one on the last one as well. I can stay on this slide, but one on the last one as well is something that's really important to know is that AACs do not stop speech. They actually help to bring speech on. So Lou and the little boy from the start. Sorry, my dog's whinging at me. The little boy from the start, he when he was really little, like any child, was nonverbal at the start. So I was teaching him sign and other versions of ways of communicating, like these buttons that you can press for yes or no. I sometimes will wear a badge like the please give me a minute one, because I get really flustered when someone is trying to speak to me and it's a lot of information or I'm in an environment. And then I know some people use spell to communicate, which is their choice too. So for me, that is terrible. I'm severely dyslexic, so when someone's spelling to me, I'm like really hoping they have a communication partner, but that's their way to communicate. So I'm going to try my best to understand it and just let them know I may get it wrong, but I'm going to do my best. And I think that's something that's really important and that we need to remember. Just because somebody uses this form of communication right now doesn't mean that's how they're always going to communicate. So be prepared for that to change. And just because you use a device, that especially does not mean that you will always be pre-verbal or non-verbal. It actually just enhances it, especially for learners who have like echolalia and they hear and then repeat. It can really bring on some of that stuff. So there's plenty of ways of setting up these devices and different ways of using them and different types of devices. And I'm sure it feels confusing, but once you get the right one, it's actually really helpful. So we'll go to the next slide, please. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about Tobii. Or TD Snap is another way. So it's from a company called Tobii Dynavox. So that's why it's TD. Just even sometimes parents ask me that kind of question, why is it TD Snap? So this may look overwhelming as it's moving around the screen there, but basically what it's doing is just showing you the different types of pages, different types of pages and stuff that you can kind of have and the way it can look. I personally really like it. I know some other people really prefer like Grid or Prologue, and there's a ton of them, but essentially the goals are the same. We want to communicate, and how you use them and prices and stuff can vary as to why we pick them. In my personal opinion, and I am not sponsored by Tobii, I have tried to get in contact with them to ask for different things, but it can be quite difficult. So there's a base in Ireland in Cork, and there's lots of training sessions, and there's online stuff which I find very helpful if my way of teaching doesn't suit you. There is a lot I'll have linked in the PowerPoint as well, and PDF that you can kind of click on and watch some other videos of people explaining things. But personally, Tobii is my favorite, and I've helped a lot of parents and other people to learn how to use it, and they found it helpful. So we'll go next, please. Okay, so this one's quite important. So the way I've kind of set up the PowerPoint for now, as I said, is kind of questions and things. So I've used some of the questions that came in to us, maybe just worded a little differently. I've also used questions that I've had from parents a ton of times before, so like frequently asked questions. And as I said, feel free to pop a question in. If I'm speaking too fast, feel free to tell me to slow down in the chat as well. It's absolutely no problem. If you would rather ask a question verbally, because I know my typing, I always worry about how I word it, please just like stick your hand up or something in the chat so we know that you want to ask something. It's no problem at all. I will do my best to answer. So for this one is why set up a Tobii Dynavox system before setting up the iPad? Basically because you won't get a headache and it won't feel so overwhelming. So the really important bit is you need this to log in. And I really like that they make you do this, because other devices that I worked with have worked with don't. And then say the person isn't very tech savvy and they don't know how to like back up or didn't realize they had to. Trust me, you make that mistake once. You do a lot of work on these things and then you think, oh, it's fine. And the kid deletes the app or the adult or whoever. And it was only a mistake. But if it's not backed up, or we don't know how to use it or have a user login, we have to start from scratch, and that is a head melt. So my number one tip is set up a My Tobii Dynavox account straight away. So that's where you do it on that link there. You also get a ton of free stuff. If you're a real information nerd like me, like when I'm interested in something, I want to know everything about that thing I'm interested in. So I went on and had a look at these different things, comparing different devices and stuff. And Tobii really stood out to me in its teaching and downloadable like free tools and already made like what are they called? The stories and stuff like that they're already made. You can just upload onto yours. So it's really good. And they have free support online and stuff as well. So if you can't get a hold of me, you can ask someone there, and they're very, very helpful. Yes, you can go to the next one.
Uh-oh. Sorry.
Don't worry. So I'm going to walk you through what it looks like to set up, because I know a lot of parents have said to me that this is really daunting, and this is the bit that they are like, what if I do it wrong? So we're going to walk through literally step by step how to set it up. Okay, so we start by going onto our website and setting up our user email address, and you want to do this as the parent or the user of the device. So when we do that, then we're going to open up this screen in the top corner which says TD Snap, new user or existing. Okay, so we're going to say new user. We're going to set up one. So that's confusing for some people because they think they can set up the email there and then, but you can't. You have to have your email ready. So then you sign in with your email address and your password, and then it's going to bring you to the who will be using TD Snap. So I've called the screen demo because on my iPad, I use it for demos. So I set it up as demo, and then you can choose your language. And another thing I love about TD Snap is it has multiple languages, but it also has a feature where you can set it up in a primary language, and you can have it have certain aspects of it if you're bilingual or your child's bilingual or you don't know which language they speak. If the parents, maybe one speaks Spanish and one speaks English, but you're saying it around the house, you never know if that's the language they'll pick up, you know? So you can actually have it set with bilingual as well, which I think is really cool. And then which of the following
best... for 1 second, CJay.
Yeah.
So just to go back, just because I got lost for a second there, when you said that you think that you need to set up or you need to have your email address set up, does that mean that you need to have a TD Snap email address set up before you start this process as a new user? Or is that your only? Okay, so you have to do a special TD Snap one.
Yeah, so it's not just TD Snap, it's the Tobii Dynavox one. When you're on that website from the slide previous, you can access everything Tobii Dynavox, including backing up your TD Snap, and there's other Tobii apps and different things. So it lets you kind of have all that in one place.
Okay, so you start by going there, TD Dynavox, set up an email address, and then you come here to TD Snap new user.
Yes, yeah, that just makes it way easier, because existing user doesn't mean that you have an email address set up. It means that you already have a TD Snap set up and you want to restore it, which I'll explain later. But
Okay.
basically, it's new user for sure first. Thanks
Okay.
for the question. Does that explain it?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, cool. So then we're going to go down to which of the following best describes, and it'll say your child's name. Mine says demo, which I think is like quite funny, but so you can kind of have a look at these. I always, if you're using these things, I often tell parents like to go with needs text with symbol support. So you have the option of both, especially if they're a young user. If it's too overwhelming during the process, you can take away the text and have only pictures. So that one's usually the best one to kind of start with. If you have someone who uses, say, spell to communicate, or is a really good speller and gets very overwhelmed by visuals, you want needs text only. So they could be just a text of one word. It can be full sentences for those kids that repeat. Sorry, the dog keeps crying.
It's totally not a problem for us. Like if you need to stop and pet your dog, go ahead, but just keep going as long as you're happy.
Okay, no problem. I'm just making sure it wasn't like wrecking the microphone.
No, it's not at all. It's not bad at all.
Okay, cool. So that would wreck my head. So just so I know. So has aphasia. I've used this with a couple of people that have had strokes or different seizures that have left different kind of problems with their speech and stuff for them. So and it might just be for a short time that they need it. So that's pretty helpful, but it is set mostly to adults. Children or teens or anybody that maybe is a more visual learner, I would always recommend the very first one. And then if you find that the first one is too overwhelming, as we're going along and I'll show you, you can start from a completely blank template, which means you don't have to delete or hide anything, which again, I'll explain. But if you just find it too overwhelming and you only want it for a couple of things to start, you can have it as a blank template. These are all changeable later, but it just feels a little bit overwhelming when it first starts there, I've been told. So, but I would always suggest go with the first one, unless you have reason to believe that the others are better for your situation. So you can go to next, please. Okay, so this is still in, we're setting it up right now kind of mode. So once you've done this once as well, you don't have to go back near it. So I always choose touch, which is the one in the top corner there that's selected. Touch enter is basically when you would touch it and then you still have to press say talk or like an enter key to like, as if you imagine when you're writing a text message, you still have to press the send key. And that's where the words will come out. I prefer touch where you just hit it once and it speaks, because I think we're asking a bit much of people sometimes if we kind of go for any more. The others I don't really think you need to kind of worry about, so I personally would just choose touch. The other top corner is your grid size, so you can have anywhere from 2 grids. Sometimes you can even put it as one giant picture if that's all you want. So obviously the higher you go up there, like 8x10, it'll fit in more, but the picture will be slightly smaller. And then select a page set. So here is where we pick the kind of information we want to already have pre-made. And I would always suggest go with core first. The last two, you actually have to pay for an additional, but I don't think they're really needed. Everything is in core first, like pretty much everything you can think of. Like we went to the zoo the other week with the kids and all the zoo animals were in there and stuff as well. There's different country stuff in there, so it's really handy. So that would be my suggestion, would be go with that. So you can go next. So yeah, so getting to know the device itself. So this is kind of what it's going to look like. Again, you can make it look smaller, so you can go to the next one, please. So these on the side here are our toolbar. So back is self-explanatory. It goes back to the last page you were on. Core words is going to bring up this little screen here for you that's already on, like I, want, not, and kind of link you to some other pages. And quick fires are questions that are already pre-set up for you. So that'd be kind of a fast explanation of that. There are other things in your toolbar, but this is your main kind of aspect of what you want. So you can go down, please. Okay, so up here is your toolbar, and this is where if you click anything, it's going to appear up here. And basically then you can see what has been chosen, because sometimes I find that someone might click a button and I might not have heard it properly if it's loud. At least I can look up in the toolbar and check what they said rather than asking them to repeat it again. Also, if you click multiple things and it has just said, like, say, I want not, for whatever reason it says that, but then you can press speak and it'll say it in one sentence, I want not, rather than just separate as they're being pressed. So you can go next, please. Okay, the little house symbol up here is a shortcut to go back to your main homepage or to a thing called the dashboard, which is where we're going to find like folders and our back button and other things like that. So you can go next, please. So yeah, this isn't the size that it'll always be, but this is usually what it starts out as. So you can hold it and scroll down. There's little white buttons on the side next to, I'm trying to press it as if you can see, the core words there, and you'll see the dots, and the white dots is like the page you're on. So you can scroll up and down so that you can see, and same with the buttons, kind of part of it as well. You can go next, please. Okay, so this is kind of more of the like how are we going to like edit a grid and what do we do? So these are pretty self-explanatory. These are just like me just putting in next to each button what they are, because to someone who may not be familiar with computers or devices, they probably wouldn't know what each button does. So it's just handy to kind of have. The hide and unhide button is one that people get confused about a lot. I would always suggest never delete a button. Just use this symbol to hide the button or unhide it if you want it to be seen. So for example, the reason I would use this is, let's say in school, I'm bringing the kids swimming. Swimming is only available on Thursdays. So I would turn the swimming button on Thursdays. But during the rest of the time, I have the button hidden, because if I didn't and it was there all the time, a couple of kids who really love swimming every day will be asking me about swimming and like, when are we going? I'm pressing it. It's absolutely okay for people to ask for things that I can't give them, but to save frustration between me and them and others as well, it's a lot easier to hide a button when it's not available, or that food choice is gone and it's not available, because too much options sometimes can be very overwhelming, as I'm sure maybe even too much information like doing this can be as well. But hopefully you'll be able to just kind of look back and kind of have a look at some of these yourself from the screenshots. So you can go to next, please. Okay, does anyone have any questions with where we are so far? Because I know it's a lot of information, but once that whole process that I already went through is done, the next time you go into TD Snap, it's all going to be ready for you. So it's just power through.
I'm going to try to recap as a person who knows nothing about any of this stuff,
Go for it. I'd love
just
to, yeah.
to see if I'm picking it up properly. So the last slide, going back a couple. So you were saying that you could, where's the one where you can say that you can touch it to send it like you do a text?
Should be back there, yeah. As in, yeah. Good to know, but it's back two, I think.
Is it back one more?
There you go.
Is that it?
Yeah. So if you go forward one, I think it's forward 2 pages. There you go, right there. So touch and touch enter.
Okay, so if you just touch it, it will say swim, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you touch, say like, I want to swim, and then you press touch enter, it will say the whole sentence?
Yes, but touch will also, every time you click each individual thing, like I want to swim, it'll say each as you touch, and then you can also press the speak button in the top corner like I was showing to be able to say the whole sentence as one now. And it is not very likely that from the start you're going to have somebody who wants to say, I want to swim. They're going to say swim. Or when we press the swim button, if they're can't think of the word now, I'm not gonna lie, it's with a G, the type of language processing and learner who would be better if they hear a question or a sentence, you can have swim on the button and then you can press it and it'll say I want to swim, and it'll say it as a whole. So there's different ways around it, but no matter what, the touch would still be my preference to it, because touch enter, I find when people are starting out, they get very frustrated because they're like, come on, like what's it doing? Why is it not talking?
They want the
Whereas the
response to the pressing the
exactly.
button. Okay,
Whereas
yeah.
the feedback from the minute you press one, you should see most people's faces are like, oh yeah, yeah, cool. You
Okay.
know, like, so it kind of works straight away. Like it's nearly like they don't expect it. So it actually kind of works better in that sense as well. So
Yeah, some people are coming to your rescue here saying
yes, that's the
gestalt.
one there. Yeah. How do you pronounce
um,
that word?
Gestalt,
Yeah,
gestalt language
see, I'm not
processing.
gonna
Yeah.
lie, it was kind of in my head there, and I went, no, I can't say that. Don't know how to say that word.
Yeah, listen, I don't know if the soft G or hard G is the right way to say it, but that's the way I learned it. So there's another person here asking, would you recommend TD Snap for someone who uses text to speech? Is there a keyboard and a speech prediction function?
Yes, there is. I'm not going to be showing that today because I felt like it might be a little bit overwhelming. There's also, if you don't want to go ahead to buy TD Snap, there is TD Text. So it's a lovely program, which I'd be more than happy to talk to whoever's question that was afterwards and send them a link to something. But it's a really nice text to speech processor that doesn't have to have pictures and stuff. But I would recommend TD Snap if, because you can kind of have it already set up rather than having to keep text every word individually. There is predictive speech on it and stuff as well, like our speech prediction, but it's mostly for words. And then later on, when you're putting a picture on a button, they have like speech prediction as well. So if I put in something, but it's actually with a picture, it'll come up and stuff too. I don't know if that answers your question fully, sorry, but there you can use it for both reasons, but there is also another app that is TD Text I would recommend as well that I really like. That's the one I would use if I get very overwhelmed and just need to communicate something to someone or order from a menu. Don't ask me why, but I nearly just go mute, even though I talk a lot. And then it comes to a menu and I'm like, I have to have like a plan A, B, and C. So that if they say it's not available, I'm ready for them. So yeah, that could be kind of it. So
That's great. Yeah, and just to say, I think that people can contact you after this is your
absolutely.
job,
On the
right?
last
Yeah.
slide, I have my contact details. I'm more than happy to chat to people. I do. She's giving out stink. I don't know what's going on. I do kind of have, like, I do it as a job as well, especially now during the summer. I'm not working. I have like a couple of clients and stuff like that as well who I'll see, and then I'll teach the parents one to one, or I'll do like a video screenshot of me doing it and stuff, and I'll send it to people. And once you've kind of paid once, so I'm kind of at your access whenever you need, kind of thing is what I do.
That's super helpful.
Yeah, but if you also just want to get in touch to ask something like about the text, or hey, I'm thinking about this, obviously there's no charge. More than happy to meet up. I've met parents for coffees and stuff to kind of go, is this the right road to go down? So, we can kind of check and see. But with the last slide, the very last slide has all my information, and I sent the PowerPoint and PDF in. So if you don't make it to the end, if it's too overwhelming, you can just save that and use my info. WhatsApp's the best way to get me.
Perfect. Let me figure out where we were now, actually, with the slides also.
Oh yeah, sorry, I just see another message in there. So it sounds good. I really like it, to be honest. Teenagers love it because they sometimes can feel okay. So from my perspective, I'm just about to be 30, but I just put myself as a teenager there. But from my perspective and some other people's I know, they found that they feel like this is nearly like childish or babyish or something. Teenage age is kind of a strange one when it comes to AAC. Also, you can like have it on a phone and all, so it's easier when it comes to like text to speech and stuff, so they don't feel as like, I don't know what the word is, just like embarrassed, I suppose. I'm okay, chill out. She's like, I don't know if she thinks I'm not okay or something, like it's probably just because I'm using my hands a lot because I don't have to touch things. So yeah, but okay, so how do I edit a button? Like I say, feel free to throw any other questions in. So up in the top corner, you're going to see a little symbol there that the arrow is pointing to, which is the symbol. Is there a phone app for teachers? Sorry, my ADHD is like, oh, question. Is there a phone app for Snap? There is. So unfortunately, at the minute, it's only on the TD Text one is on iPhone. They're working on TD Snap for phones because there was complaints when it was on a phone that it was maybe a little bit too small, because all the screens now, some of the people like them more compact, so it's not as nice to use. But TD Text is perfect on a phone. Unfortunately, it's only on Apple at the moment. I have wrote multiple emails because I'm an Android person, but they're hoping to have it on. I also have it on my computer, which is like very helpful for editing and different bits as well, bigger screen. And then they have it on Apple iPads. So yeah, there is equivalence for the text to speech on other devices, but not quite TD Snap just yet, but they're working on it. So what age is this going to go from? Yeah, 100%. I personally use it with like that little boy I was using it with from the start. He was 1 when I started using it. So you can make it as user friendly as you want. Like, it doesn't have to look overwhelming like this. Like with him, I was using it for things like, yeah, food, clothes, family memories. I had photos up that were personal, and I wanted him to hear like how it said the name, or I was using colors. I said, can you get me the red? And I would click red, the red block, and I would model it. And then eventually, like, he would start doing it, or if he wanted me to come to his house, he would go up and click my picture. So yeah, it can be, in my opinion, it is really, really like easy to edit and nice to use even for younger ages. And there's a way of locking the settings, which I'm going to show later, which is fantastic. And then also where you can lock it on the iPad so they can't go out of it and go into like YouTube and stuff. Like the kids in work could be like, out of it on Netflix. I'm like, no, lads, it's not what it's for. So yeah, so you can use it for different things. There's very specific TD devices, or you can have it on an Apple iPad. Yeah, a lot of the kids tend to throw them, or I have kids who one of their things they love to do in their STEM is rip things. So no matter how much I laminate things, I've double laminated them before, they will chew it or find a way to rip it. So yeah, it's like, it's a little bit crazy. May have some, but here's a grid. Yes, there's like plenty of forms of it and stuff like that as well. I also have some really basic ones. I have ones that I use with 2-year-olds. I'd be more than happy to show you as well. So thanks for the question. So the edit pages. So we go up to this little symbol. So can you go next, please? Okay, so this is literally step-by-step way of doing it. But if you learn better by seeing, even though this is technically a video, but I'm not physically showing you, I have it written in steps, you can scan this QR code if you know how to do that, or you can go to that link there, you can just type that in, and there'll be a video of an official TD Snap video from their workplace showing you how to edit them. So I'm just going to kind of speed through this because that's there and this is written out. But basically we go up there, we hit button, and then we can search for something that we want or need that may already be there. So say like car, or we can add our own car. So I find it helpful to add all the buses and taxis for the kids, but like their own one, what it looks like. So we can find the symbol that's already there, like bus, car, taxi, and then we can edit it and we can add our own in. Or there's multiple other ways you can kind of change it. Like you can make the style bigger, the font's different. I personally find some fonts ridiculously hard to read with my dyslexia. So I know Century Gothic really helps me, or anything very rounded. So there's kind of knockoff types of that as well that I find my whole computer's in that. So yeah, I find it helpful to be able to change the buttons and the style like that. So if you can go next, please. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like when you go to edit button. Say you've chosen one from a search, but when you've selected it, there's a lot of other things you can do. Like, I keep going to touch my screen. Content, style, link to page. Link to page is where we link it to something we've already made. So let's say it says, I want food. We can link it to a page that has all the food options. So when it's pressed, it'll go straight to the, I think I just gave like a mom look to that dog. Like, I'm like, I don't even have kids and I'm like pissed off. Talk to you later. Sorry, so ADHD. So yeah, we can kind of link to other pages, so you don't have to, what's the saying, reinvent the wheel. So I find those sayings like ridiculously funny because I never overly understood them, and now I find myself using them a lot since I've like entered the workplace. I'm like trying so hard to put them in, but I always do this. So I need to not do that. But yeah, so you can have a button where it looks like this guy here, where it's just a picture. And when you put in a message like I agree, when you click it, it'll say I agree. But if you put a label, okay, that's the important thing to remember, is that if you put a label on, the label underneath the picture on the button, it'll say I agree. So for another child I work with, I make it in a way that it has a picture, and let's just say it has Karen underneath. But in the message area, I have it, when it's clicked, it says, this is Karen. But on the button, it just says Karen and has a picture of Karen. Hopefully that makes sense. But I find that a lot easier to understand. But also for the adults who don't maybe see visual or who work with them, and you're saying like, who's Karen? Or like, why is she there? At least it says like, this is Karen. She's my bus escort. Like, you know, so it explains who the person is that maybe he's looking for. So yeah, and then just another one that's just down as well. So actions, under actions, it says speak or insert message. So anyone that we add, what that means is it's going to speak out and say, I agree, but it's also going to go up to our toolbar up the top that I showed you, which had speak next to it. So it's going to be up there as well. So if I miss what he said, the little symbol and the word Karen say, or the I agree, is going to be up there. So I can see it, and he can press speak again and it'll do it again without him having to find it. A lot of information, I know, and a lot of people find that one really difficult to understand, but I think it's one of these situations where when you, someone's raised their hand. Awesome. When you play around with it, you get used to it. But yeah, would you like to ask a question?
Sorry, I just couldn't write it in. So we're using TD Snaps at the minute.
Awesome.
And so some of the words don't go up into that speak bar. Why is that?
Because, and that's exactly why I mentioned this actions thing, because it drives me nuts, because, you know, the kid presses it and then I'm like, oh, I didn't get that, go say it again, and they're like, no. He's like, I done the work once, I ain't doing it again. Drives me nuts. So it's probably with something that's already in there, pre-programmed in, and maybe it's just a talking one. So I don't know why I press my mouth. But so where the actions are, if you go into edit that button and you look under actions, I bet you €10 it doesn't say speak or insert, or if it does, it'll say message like only or something. So you want it to say message behavior always speak, and that's what they're automatically set to. But for some reason, some of the buttons sometimes, I don't know why, I'm not going to even lie, but like they maybe just have where they want it to just speak it. I find it mad frustrating. I prefer when it speaks it and it goes into the bar in case I miss it, or they want to say a full sentence.
Brilliant. That's good. I just changed it there. Thank you.
Perfect. I'm glad. I hope that makes sense. It's one of them pet peeves of mine, if you can't tell. So yeah. And then what's always really important is we always have to make sure we press done. So many parents are like, I spent ages on this and then it won't appear. And I'm like, you didn't press done. It's like not pressing finish, you know, when you like, it's like writing the text message and not hitting send. So, and I have done that 101 times. So it's just reminding yourself that you have to like hit done. And then the other important thing is to save, which we're going to talk about. So next, please. Okay, so again, it's going to fast kind of go through this because when you play around with it, you're going to figure it out. So the content page, I really love this, and especially because I work with kids from all different places and all different backgrounds and all different skin colors. So what I can do is the style on this one is the style of the button, which you can see at the top is highlighted, the word button, and then it says style. So for me with my dyslexia, I rather the background of the whole grid be black. And then I put the buttons in pastel kind of colors, because for me, I find that easier to see. And I changed the kind of thickness of the button, and I changed the font and all as it says there, and the color of it. So once I've done this once on this button, that's only for that button. But in settings, I can go to the settings and the same thing, go to style and button, and it'll change the style for absolutely everything. But also on user, which I think I have in a couple of slides. If not, I'll maybe demo it or something, or I can show you again. So basically in the user, I can click skin color, and then I don't have to keep going in and changing, because kids love if we use the kind of PEX type pictures or whatever as they're known as, but really it's just like, you know, the little stick man kind of pictures. They love when they see someone who looks like themselves, and I think it's so important. Like, why should they all just be white with blonde hair, blue eyes? Like, you know, it's just not realistic as well. So I really like that. So mine says insert if message window is present, otherwise speak. That's also helpful, but like, that's not a big deal if it says that. That'll still work. So it just means that if it's up there, but in my opinion, I would always have the message window, or like the toolbar at the top kind of thing, the speaking box, always present. Again, for reasons I mentioned, like I maybe missed something they said. I hope that makes sense. So the style of the pages and the style of your user can be different things. Like when we have on the emojis, you know, for the thumbs up, I have mine selected at a level of white that kind of looks like me. So yeah, so it's an easy way to do it. So you can go next. Okay, so how do we get to that point where we can find how to edit the settings or the skin color? Same place up the top there again with that little sentence thing and a pencil, which just means we're editing it and we're changing. So you can go next, please. Okay, and in here, the most important thing, in my opinion, in this is the user one, where we can log in, it'll show your user's name. So this is the account we're using. And make sure, see that not connected to an account? We don't want that. You want to make sure your account is connected so you hit login. Now, if you've logged in from the start with your account, it should just be there. That means it's always backing up everything to that account, which is super important. But then the next most important thing is the voice. So we don't all sound like the Stephen Hawking's voice, you know, we want it to sound different. So I like to play around. There's ones with completely different accents, like there's an English accent, there's an Irish one that I'm telling you now cracks me up. So you can choose if you want like a kid, a teenager, or an adult, and it changes the voice for you on that, and it'll give you a name. So one that I know I often use with the kids in work, and they often like Alfie, and it's an English child's voice. And then, so if you just click into speaking voice that it shows you there, says Josh, they'll give you all these options, and then there's a little arrow and you want to hit download on that and then select it when it's downloaded, and then you'll always have it. And then you can change. So I speak really fast, if you haven't noticed. So I changed the rate of mine faster because of my ADHD. I don't like when things are slow or when people speak really slow. I'm like, I will just wander like completely. So, but also if the pitch is too high, it stresses my ears out because I'm really noise sensitive. So it's fun to play around with in there and kind of see what reminds you of like the other family members and how you think their voice would sound. There's also, this is like in the future, but there are ways for you to add. You do have to pay extra. Them voices are free, but you have to pay extra for this thing where you can record your own voice and your family's voice and have it like make a child's voice out of those voices so that the child sounds like your family. I think that's an absolutely lovely idea. But again, if you want to do that or want to know more about that, like give me a text or something, and I'd be more than happy to help you to do that. But it's just nice to know. So you can go next, please. Okay, so to add a button. So same idea, we're going up to that edit symbol. And then if you see loads of buttons are already there and you want to add one, we just like literally just hold it and scroll down until you find this big plus sign like this. That's an empty cell or an empty button. So we just click it, it's already added. And then we search for a word. If we want to add a word that's already there, maybe we can find the button, or we can put in a picture of, say, our own car, or, you know, whatever else you might want to put in, and then we can edit it. So you can go next, please. Okay, so this is just a handy little one to know that in edit mode, if you want to move something, so like often I make a timetable, let's say, for instance, and say on Thursdays, swimming is in there and it's in the afternoon, but let's say I want it in the morning. I just hold the button like you would an app on your phone. And when it starts, like, you know, that thing they have to do where they like wiggle, like, you know, this kind of thing. It doesn't quite do that on this, but it'll highlight it like it does there. and you just hold it and you drag and you keep holding it until you get to the very top or the middle, or wherever you want it. So you just long hold, and that's how you drag it. And then if you put it in that top corner, the one that you're putting it on top of is going to move to where the other one was. So think of it like copy and paste. Or you want to wait for a little black line when you're holding it, and that'll put it in front of the first one. So if I wanted to replace want and I can hold it. I'm still touching the screen. I can hold it and I can put it on top of want, which will just automatically swap places. Or I can move it over to where not is and wait for a little black line, and it'll put it in between the two and not like swap them. So the reason I tell you that is the amount of parents who are like, I moved something and the other yoke has completely disappeared, and actually it's just down the bottom of their page. Totally easy mistake, but just so you're kind of aware of it, because it's a bit finicky when you're first getting started. But you get used to it and it gets a bit easier. So next, please. Again, I'm racing through these kind of things, but is there any other questions on that? Gonna say no, I haven't seen something yet. So, oh, there we go. Color coding on the main page is important to make your own page in the same order. No. Oh, yeah, that's a really good question. No, not at all. They have.
All right, I'm just going to stop and say that one more time, CJ, just for the recording's sake.
Oh, so, sorry, yeah.
So the question is, the color coding on the main page, is it important to make your own pages in the same color?
Yeah, sorry, I read things out loud to myself and I was
That's
like,
okay.
You can see it. So no, you don't have to do the same order at all. I personally don't like the order and don't like the color system, because in my brain there's no logic. TD Snap will tell you there's logic to it, and there probably is, like linking pages, which brings you to another page, or pink, as you can kind of see there. But I don't really understand it, and I just rather them all be the same. So I changed the background of all of mine in one go in that edit session. If you rather it a different way, that's fine. Some of the kids in work love when their family member pictures or their pictures of people have a yellow background, because their eyes kind of go there quick and it's easy to see. That's kind of the point in these color things, but there's not enough logic for me to want to sit and explain that to a kid or a parent. But as educators, apparently there's a load of logic to it, but it's not often the educators that are using these apps. So in my opinion, it's not important. Yeah, cool. You've lost sleep over it. I do not blame you. So it just says, yeah, I've lost sleep over it. And yeah, a lot of people do. They get really stressed by it. And so just hear me now. It's not important. So it's good. Okay, so thanks for your questions. So we'll go back to this one. So how do I search my grades? So when we were going to the zoo, I was like, oh man, I want to tell this kid, like, my favorite animal. He was like, what's your favorite animal? I was like, oh man, like he probably hasn't got a picture of a sea lion set up in his grid. But in Dublin Zoo, have you ever seen the sea lions in Dublin Zoo? Like you can see under the water and you can see them above the water, but you're like in this like tunnel thing. It's like the best sensory experience ever. I'm only short of wanting to be in the water with them to experience the like level of no noise. It's phenomenal. You have to do it. Every autistic person I know loves them and the red panda. The red panda is just so chill as well. Like it's lovely. So I was telling this kid about it, right? And the other staff were like, think you're more excited about this than the kids. I'm like, and so what? Like it would be great. So I go up to the search and I'm like, I'll just put in sea lion and see. Lads, TD Snap has everything. When I say everything, it categorized it in like zoo, water animals, or like aquatic animals, and then it was sea lion, and then I had like zoo and then other animals. Now it doesn't know it's in Dublin Zoo, but I think it's just going for like any zoo, and I had them all there. Like I had some mad animals. Like in Dublin Zoo there are some mad animals that I would not know the name of or even dare to pronounce. There's one that looks kind of like a zebra, but it's really tall and skinny, and this was on the app. Couldn't tell you what the name of it is, but this was on the app, and the kid was able to be like, that's a whatever the word was, and I was like, yeah, it is. That's awesome. So I love that all the work is done for you in here, but I sometimes feel it's overwhelming to find the words. So literally shortcut it and just go to that little magnifying glass and type a word. I dare you for the crack to even just type something in and be like, bet you this isn't here. I play this game with staff all the time. Like we're like, bet you that word's not there. You'll find it. So you can click it, and then the great thing is when you do click it, if you can go to the next one please, when you do click what you're looking for, so let's use a simple example of dog, since she's wrecking my head. And we put dog in the top bar, and then it gives me dog out of our main list of animals. It gives me accessibility feature type things as well, which, come on, it would want to, like the type of app it is. So it gives you like service dog and stuff as well. So maybe a kid's trying to ask a question about a dog it's seen. And then it even gives you as far as like dog treats and hot dog. So like you literally will not be lost for trying to find something, and it'll show you the category it's in. As well, because then when you click it, it'll bring you to that category, and then you can move that whole topic or category onto your front page if you want it to be accessible quicker. So for the kids I work with as well, we often talk about like how the steps of their dog when they go home. So they have to like, put the lead on, feed them, take them for a walk, stuff like that, and safety bits, but it's all in there and it's already made for you. And then like how to care for the accessible kind of service dogs, and like to not go up and pet them unless we ask questions. Like that's all in there, which is crazy time saving. So it's amazing. You can filter it down further and further. So yeah, I'm a big advocate for this thing because a lot of the work is done for you. So it's amazing. So you can go next, please. Okay, my favorite feature of them all. This will stop kids from deleting things that you spend ages making or doing, or stop yourself from doing it, because sometimes we like are tired when we're making all these things and you're like, oh man, I'm like so tired. But it also will sync a feed. So in the top edit corner again, we go to systems tab and then passcode. Okay, so we want to turn it on. So please hear me now. Please do not make your password 0000 or like 1234. All the kids in my work guess this all the time, because I will make a grid that's like our timetable, and they are so clever. And on the like visual timetable on the wall, they'll go up and take off the PE class if he's like, I ain't doing that. My written work, ain't doing that, and put it in the finish box. And I'm like, where'd that go? So they can do the same on this. They can like, they're really smart and learn it really fast, and they'll hold it and they'll delete it, or they'll like take pictures and add it to a grid. I'm not even joking how smart some of these like kids are that we work with that do this, and they like completely take over the device, and the poor parents like, it took me ages to learn that. How do I stop that? So in this mode, we can turn on what we want to use the passcode for. So whether it's to edit, to exit the iPad, which is my favorite one. So like if you press the home button, you have to put in the code to get out of the app. Amazing. So it means that they can only watch Netflix when you put the code in for them. Don't let them see it, because again, they watch your hand movements. They're ridiculously smart. So then if they've gone onto it and they weren't supposed to, it'll close automatically within 10 seconds and just keep them on the main page they're on. If it gets to a point where you have a teenager who wants to edit their own stuff and add in their own things, so like a kid I work with or a preteen loves dinosaurs, so I haven't got a clue about the dinosaurs or how to spell them, so he takes the picture himself, puts it in himself, and writes in the word. So he has access to do that, but you can still have the 4-digit lock on so that he can't leave the app and go watch Netflix. So you can do, or like YouTube or something. So there's loads you can do with it. So like I say, play around with it, but whatever you do, don't use a really simple one because they will guess it, and write down the code, because if you forget it, then we're all done for.
We have parent control settings on our kids' phones, and of course they've hacked us. So
that's what I mean. They're too smart, and they're like,
yeah,
this is too easy. So they're like, don't use a date of birth. Do something backwards. They don't often think of that. Honestly, like it's crazy. She's up here. This is Millie.
Yay, Millie's happy now. She can see you.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. She's I think it's when I get really enthusiastic, she gets a bit like angsty, like, are we getting a bit overwhelmed here, a bit over into this?
That's sweet.
So, yeah, she can be funny like that. So okay, you can go next, please. So this was a question that was sent in, and I get asked a lot as well. So this little cloud with the funny little circle is how it's called sync. So how we like back up our pages. So as you're working, it's like pressing a save button on Microsoft. Keep pressing that button, because what it's doing is it's going to automatically sync and save your all the work you've done and your grades and your devices to the cloud, which is going to be the cloud. If you just think about that as your login that we did at the start, and that is why that login is so super important. If your iPad breaks and you no longer have this, but you have an iPhone or sorry, you have another iPad or something that you want to put it onto, we can just restore the backup from this cloud. if you haven't been saving it, it's gonna still be on the iPad. But if something happens to it, it's no use. Or another question that came in was, can we have it on multiple devices? Yes, you can. But if you don't want to have it confusing, please back it up with the sync, because otherwise you might make a change. So like I have it on my computer and my iPad. If I make a change on my computer, I have to make sure I sync it. And then I also sync, it'll show you in the next bit, it's going to sync a copy to my cloud, so that if I'm working on it, and then I can put it on my iPad and take it with me. But I find it easier to edit on my computer because it's a bigger screen. So it's the same for parents. If you have it, say, on an iPad that's your personal one, you do the editing, and then the kid needs it for school. If you haven't sank it and then opened it to restore that, which again, I'll show you in the next slide, onto that device for the latest backup, then there's no point. It can be very confusing, but I have a PDF I've made of in detail how to do that. So if you want one of those, like just give me a shout. Happy to send it to you. And there's videos on it as well, and how to like update it onto the other iPad so that everything is in sync, especially if there's two parents working on them separately. My advice would be make sure that you sorry, there's a question came on the top, so my brain is like, what? Just make sure that you sync it, and maybe just have one parent editing or one device to edit. That would be my real advice, because it is hard work. So two parents is, or two like minders, anything, but just make sure it's just on one device maybe, because that saves a bit of back and forth and confusion. Sorry, a question that I got sent to me there was, besides clear, I have a delete button. Should that be there, or do you hide it? Sorry, at the top right hand corner. I'm not gonna lie, I don't fully understand the question. If you want to ask me again, or if anyone wants to interpret for me. Beside clear, I have a delete
I'm
button.
not seeing the question. Where is it? It's in the chat, is it?
It says direct message, so it must be just me.
Oh, into you. Okay.
But it just says delete button, and should that be there, do you hide it? So
I guess maybe so that the kids won't delete it themselves. Is that maybe the question?
maybe that makes sense. So when we're in edit mode, which is that top little symbol that I was showing, that should be the only time you see a delete button. So yeah, it should be there. But if we don't want them to touch that, two buttons at the top right hand corner. What two buttons have you got? So on my screen right now, it's shown as the edit symbol, the speech bubble, but the reason mine has a speech bubble with a line through it, just so you know, is because on my computer, it's free to use on your computer. You can do all the features except speak. So it won't say it out loud, which is fine because I just use it for editing. So that's why it's not there. And then it's the upload symbol, and the little light bulb is for if they have an idea or a suggestion or a new tip or a new feature that you might like. I have two buttons at the top right hand corner, delete and clear. Okay. I'm not sure, but because that to me is really unusual. But if you would like, I'm more than happy to talk with you. Oh, clever. Is the delete button for the speech bar not to edit? You are probably very right. Yeah. So it's delete the message completely, maybe, or clear is definitely, it clears the whole window box because some kids will stim and keep pressing. So, okay, yours says clear, delete comes up in a bigger grid. Okay, yeah, then maybe that's it. So, and I hadn't actually noticed that, fair play. But if that doesn't answer your question, that I think what it does is just clears the top box or it deletes what's in that top box. I hope that's all it does, and that the delete button shouldn't be there unless you're in edit mode. But if I'm wrong, which I very well could be, I'm more than happy to talk to you separately and for you to like screenshot it and send it to me, and then I may have a better answer for you if that's not how it works. I'm correct. Awesome. Thank you, Louise, as well, for helping me with that one. So yeah, teamwork, guys. It's what works well. Awesome. Okay, so sync is really important. If you take nothing else away, take away sync is super important. Okay, next please. Okay, so again, this is like the more detailed version, which is the PDF on like how to save your progress. So I'm not going to just talk you through explaining it because I've put the PowerPoint in there and I can send it again if anyone's missed it. But that's the real detailed step-by-step version of how exactly to edit and save and where it is, and making sure that your account is logged in. You can go next as well, please. So that's the end of the how to back it up and save. But once you've backed it up to the right place and you're saving it, the little sync button is the only button you really need to press. It's like press and save in your like Word document. But what this is talking you through as well is making sure that it's backing up to the right place. You can put it onto a USB key if you want as well. Sometimes I make multiple backups of it because I have worked really hard and done a lot of it, and I get super paranoid that I'm going to lose it. So you can also share it with another Tobii user. So for a kid's device that I work on, I share anything I do to myself so that I can always re-download it. Also, it means I can double check that it looks how it should on my device as well. So I can have multiple users there and just kind of keep up to date with them and edit as their parents ask. So if this is all way too overwhelming, some people do pay me just to do it for them, basically, but it's really important for you to know how to edit something like smaller and to kind of have an idea. And I would say don't be fearful of it, give it a shot and see. But this bit of it can be very daunting, like, did I save it properly and will it cross over? So yeah, if you need any help with that, just let me know. So we can go to next, please. So again, that's just what I was saying about syncing across multiple devices. So it's in the exact same place. We click there. We would press, you can go next, please. We would press existing user in the setup, as you can see in point 3 there. And then we can find, it'll have a list of all our previous backups and a date next to them. You can save it as a name. Sometimes I change the name and I edit it as like CJay's edit and a date so that we know that that's the last time I was there. If anything happens to your device and you do forget to save, the good thing is that you can always go back to, it's like, you know, if you close on Microsoft, you close something and it automatically saves for you. By having my saved version, there is something we're going back to, so we don't have to start from the whole start. But at the same time, you know, it's not everything. So that's why sync is like super important. I hope that makes sense. It's actually a bit of a strange one to try and explain. But if you look at it and do it yourself and kind of go through it, it will work. And don't be afraid of breaking anything or deleting something. There's always a way to get something back. So if you can go next, please. Okay, so I'm just going to fly through these last ones because I know we've kind of been on, but I know we started late. But basically, these would be my top tips for using AAC, not just Tobii, but AAC in general. But for me, it would be using Tobii with that. So these are just my opinions from my experience, but I do find them helpful and other parents have too. So that's why I stuck them back in again. So next, please. Okay, so get to know your device, play around with it. Don't be afraid of breaking it. There's always a way to get it back to how it originally looked, basically, is it? And especially play around with it before you start to put in things that you really want in it, you know, like the car or whatever, and stuff that you're afraid of losing. Play around with that first, and then you can refresh it back to the original settings if you've done something you don't know how to like fix, or give me a shape. Next. Tobii, by the way, as well, has a lot more features, which are amazing, but I don't want to overwhelm you. I feel like I possibly already slightly have. So if you want to know more and other things that it can do and things it can incorporate, like music and like vocal, and like, you know, if you press a button, it can say something that someone else has pre-recorded. I love that one. I have like my grandparents and stuff like that, so a message from them for my sister, like, we'll see you soon, or something like that. You can have that happen as well, which is like really nice in a pre-recorded audio. So as I said, get in touch if you need help with any of that, or if you think you're ready for like the next steps more than what I've gone through, because I know I did very basic. So always keep your AAC close by and take advantage of it in every situation. So what I mean is that don't just use it for, do you want apple or orange? I'd be like, hey, Lewin, like, and I usually sign at the same time. I'm like, look at the bird, and I click bird, and then he's like, oh yeah, and I was like, isn't it a nice bird? And I choose like a word from each sentences to like model it. But modeling the device and how to use it could be a whole other talk, to be honest, because there's so many ways to kind of do it. So again, if you want help with that in the way that I do it, or I find helpful with Tobii and AAC, like, let me know. But whatever way you do decide to use it is what's best as well, because that's how the person's going to learn. So just using it constantly, even if you think it's being annoying, is actually the most helpful. Because sometimes I've had a kid once in particular who I used it so much, he actually started using the device to tell me to shut up. So it worked though. He actually used the device. So it was hilarious. And then I had some other funny ones on it, and he was like, oh, I can say that. Obviously not ideal, but he used it, and then he got a feel for it and was like, hey, I got what I needed from that because I was able to communicate something. So it's super important. So next, please. Okay, yeah, I feel very strongly about this, but please don't ever take away anybody's AAC as a punishment or use it as a reward. Like, if you clean your room, you can have this. It's not an iPad like a normal iPad. We use AACs as our voice, and I personally think it's really, really important. So please don't take it away, because if they're angry, they should be allowed to express to you how angry they are, like any other child or adult or anyone can. Imagine being that angry that you actually can't say anything, and it's like you're on mute. Like, that's not really fair, right? So like, if we want to make the playing field like more fair and stuff like that, it's better that they always have it. I do understand some kids throw things. Please just get a really good case, because kids I work with throw it and bite it and stuff. That's also their voice. That's also their way of communicating with me. I'm pissed, you're annoying me. Like, you know, or like something's really upset me. So it's really important that we make sure that they're there. And also, not even just on behavioral, but make sure they go everywhere. To the playground, before they go to the bathroom, they could use it. Some kids I know bring it to the bathroom. Not ideal. Someone's dropped it down the toilet before. But if they were in the toilet and they want to tell you that they need help to flush, they need help to wipe, how are they supposed to do that before they go in? So they need to take the device, you know? So just please get a really good case and try not take it away from them. And I do understand there's situations where some parents may feel they need to, or some kids stim and just press the one button, or adults even, or whatever. It's about communicating and saying to them, hey, you know, let's see what you're stimming with, like what the word is, and maybe we don't need to do it like that because mommy has a headache, or, you know, that's fine. It's very sensory overwhelming for me, like, you know. So it's about how we communicate rather than just know, because the more you know on a stim, especially with that, if that was me, I would so keep doing it. So like, it's just like pure, I don't know, like in my head, that's banter, it's not boldness. So it really does just kind of depends. So it's a really important thing. Next, please. Okay, using their form of communication, whether it's with just text or it's with the symbols, or like drawing out a symbol that's on their device that they can find. But in my opinion, I would say always use the form of communication that they choose. It may not be your form of communication, but it's like when people say, English is my first language. Well, for someone who uses sign, ISL is actually their first language, not English necessarily. Hopefully you understand what I mean by that. And I think that that's really important to realize that this is their first language and this is how they communicate. So when you go to the likes of, say, Spain or something, most of us will try and at least speak a little bit of Spanish, or put something in, or at least say, I'm really sorry, I don't speak Spanish. So if you don't have time or something, that's what a lot of parents tell me, to speak in terms of their AAC. Maybe it's communicating that and just saying, I don't have time to model it on your device right now, but can we answer and chat in that way, and kind of trying to show something. I don't know what's up with her. Honest to God, she's like, right, Millie, stop. Okay, next please. We're just finished now anyway, pretty much. Demonstrate using the device. As I say, don't like force it, but just have it around all the time. And like Dory's just keep swimming, it's just keep modeling. That'll be how I see how they'll get used to it. Because at the moment it's just a strange thing probably to some kids, and they're kind of like, they want to play the games or the other things on the iPad that they know. So I would say just keep modeling it and always have it close by, because you never know when they're going to pick it up or when they'll want it. Next please. And acknowledge all forms of communication and any attempts at it as well. So like when we have a child who's stimming on it, please just go with that and try, and I know it can be frustrating, but try and go with it and try and kind of understand what it is that they're looking for. Or if they just press random things, there is something they're trying to communicate. So I would say acknowledge it and just say, you know, well done, I don't quite understand, so let me try and understand what it is that you need. But thank you for trying, you know, or thank you for actually communicating what I just don't understand. Personally, yeah, I find that's very important too. So Next. I think another important one is just how to take care of the device. So it's teaching them how to put it on charge, knowing that when they take it to the bathroom, maybe don't put it down the toilet. You know, simple, straightforward things, but just teaching them how to take care of it and take responsibility for the device will make them realize it's something that's important for them too. It may take time, but it's important that we put it on charge at nighttime and explain it needs to charge up. So we have it for the morning, and then let them finish whatever it is they want to say before, like, that we don't take it away. We necessarily are just teaching how to put it on charge so that we have it, because that's important. So next, please. And yeah, have fun with it. So like I said, the kid told me to shut up. Not ideal, but I clicked back and said, you're being very salty. And it was a fun one to do. So you can actually make these online. I also make these up as well with a thing called Board Maker. Most education, people in education have this kind of thing. It's given to schools and stuff. So I tried to pick things like FOMO, as like fear of missing out, and stuff that teenagers want to say. And like the girls love pressing adorbs for the puppy. So we'd be walking down the road and they'd be like, oh, it's totes adorbs on their device. And it's so funny, but that's what kids their age say as well. So it's nice that they can be a part of that, you know? So don't be afraid to put other things in there or other dances that they like and stuff like that. Next. Yeah, and just be patient. This takes time, and I'm not going to lie, it takes a long time, but it's really worth it. And it's the most amazing thing when you see someone who was voiceless or is frustrated with the current voice they have or how they communicate or any of the above, just have access. And that's what it's all about. It's just access and being available for people and trying to make sure that they get the best out of life and whatever way it is that they choose to communicate, you know. So just be patient with it, and I'm here if you need a hand with anything. So the next slide should give you my info. For the conclusion, I was just saying that technology makes things easier for neurodivergent individuals, and assistive technology gives us a voice and makes it possible to be who we are and to like let you know that. And we use AACs and assistive technologies to allow everyone to participate independently, and even if they can't do it independently yet, it's given them the opportunity to, and that's really important too. So thank you for like listening, and I know it was probably super long. I know there's 2 extra questions I'm happy to have a look at, and it was a lot of information, but it's something that's like truly important. So thanks for giving it a go. So you can go to the next one. And that should be my info this time, I think. Yes, there we go.
Great. So, CJay, thank you so much. Did you want to, we'll leave this up here so people can have a look at it and maybe write it down if they want, and then the recording will be available. But if you want to answer those last 2 questions, feel free.
Yeah, you sure? Okay, I was like just making sure time was. I'm like,
listen, it's up to you. We'll stay as long as you want.
No, I'm perfect for time. I just don't want to be keeping people too long. I know what it's like when I'm sitting in a lecture in the evenings. I'm like, come on. So I just want to make sure. Okay, so the top one is saying, do you know if on TDI11 device there's a way to turn up the brightness on the screen? Yes, on the TD Snap rather than going back out of the app. Yes, there is. Sometimes the sun's very bad and it takes so long. Yeah, so there is a really key way. Could you go back up a couple of slides and I'll just tell you when to stop, just so I can point to a symbol or just kind of point out a symbol, and this is a really simple way for you to do it. I'd say it's a good for you back up now. It's like it looks like the device. Okay, any of these. Okay, stop there, please. See where the little house is? There's a little house, and then there's a circle symbol. See up there, and it looks like, I think how I would describe it is kind of like when the fuel is going empty, you know, one of those on a car. You want to click that. Okay, so that's called your dashboard, and I was going to put this in and then I was like, oh, it's too much. So this is your dashboard, and it's where like a lot of things can happen. In here you can put the battery percentage, because when it's in full screen mode you can't see the battery and stuff too. The volume, you can have a plus up and down. So these buttons are, I can never say this word, like specifically for these actions. So you remember earlier when we said that it'll say action, speak, when message, blah blah blah. If you click on that button and we click action, you can click a say time. So for me, I like that when I click it and it tells me the time, it tells me the day, it tells me the date. There's all these different buttons that have actions. That is going to be in kind of like my next step and stuff as well, and like what's really helpful to know or to use. But if you play around in the dash, in that dash thing there as well, it's like your best friend when it comes to like little bits you want to use and kind of edit. There's like a social story thing in there and everything too, but there's a brightness and you can click where you want brightness up, brightness down, or sound up, sound down, or there's also a mute button, which I know I say don't take the device away from kids, so I don't take it away from them, but sometimes they speak while there's someone else speaking or whatever, so I may mute them for a second with the mute button. So it means they can still tell me what they want to say. It'll come up in the message box, it just won't say it out loud, because some of the kids don't understand that they can't talk over the instructions, you know, and then I'll unmute it straight away so that they can do it, and they could unmute it themselves as well, but it's a way to help them learn it. I hope that makes sense. The other question, how do you change the size of a button if you're using a header on a page you are creating? Okay, how do you change? Okay, I'm not completely sure about the end of that question, but how you change the size of a button is when you're in edit mode, and we're in the button edit mode, okay? Every side of the button is gonna have a little dot or something. You know, if you're cropping a picture, you would hold the edge and pull. But basically it's the same thing. So you can edit the size of the button by doing that. You can make one button the size of 4 buttons, and then the rest of the buttons will just be a normal size, or you can make one button really big. So the size that it's okay. She knocked something over. Sorry about the noise of that. You're okay.
Well, she's got your attention now.
She got such a fright and ran. Like, she's like worse than a child. She knocked that over, I think, to get my attention. Yeah, you're okay. I'm okay. It's fine. I think she's reminding me to take meds. I think that's what it is. But I hope that that makes sense and can is easy to do. And if not, like say, please feel free to message me. I'll do a little video of myself doing it. More than happy to. Thanks so much, really practical. Yeah, no problem at all. I'm so sorry if it was too much or anything. Thanks so much. Can you do a next step of edit also? Oh, sorry. What exactly does that question mean?
That's probably, can you do another webinar on editing in the future?
Oh, more than happy to. If that was helpful, I'd be more than happy to, because I had to condense it down and delete things out of it today because I was like, it's too much. So I didn't want to overwhelm people. But yeah, when something's your special interest or something you're really into, it's hard to like know where the limit is for other people.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's awesome. Yeah, of course, I'd really love to talk to Michelle if you want something more for me to do on those, or like, yeah, how to model and do different things.
For sure. Like that was so interesting. And I don't have one of these or have a need for one of them, but I think it's pretty amazing. And I loved listening to all this tonight. Do you work with individual AAC users? Yeah, Catherine, she does. Sorry, they do. CJay does. So if you will, I'll just put this last slide up again.
Yeah.
So you can look at CJay's details here. And then if you want to contact them, you can. So, and then this is CJay's job in real life, and they were saying that they were happy to make appointments to meet with people or chat about it.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's going to be my full-time job at some point. It's the aim of the game. At the minute, I'm an SNA, but now it's the summer. It's kind of my full-time job during the summer. So now is the best time to get me if you want a hand or like help with an assessment or something to see like, you know, where they're at and what kind of like learner and stuff they are. And yeah, we can kind of figure that out. Just give me a shout. Like I say, WhatsApp's the best way to get me. I will kind of go back and answer then and stuff. I often send voice notes, so don't be surprised if you get a voice note from me. I find it easier than texting. But yeah, so feel free to hit me with any questions or anything that you didn't understand from today either. Thanks for your thoughts and feedback as well. That's really helpful because it can be really nerve-wracking doing these things. But yeah, so if you have anything else, just let me know. Is that all the questions? Did I
There's one last one about having issues with the app freezing, going out of it and trying to go back in. It says it can't open the app.
Oh, have you done an update? A lot of parents have messaged me with that one. There was an update that was a pretty big update recently. And if you in your app store, you go in and make sure all your apps are up to date. And also make sure that your software for the iPad itself is the newest iOS, and make sure that's up to date. That's like super important as well for the functionality of the app and how quick it moves when you press buttons and things. So I hope that helps. If not, you may have too many apps on it and it's just working a bit slow. So maybe get rid of some.
Okay, and so Catherine, just to say, you've got the information, or sorry, Caroline, you've got the information that CJay does work one-to-one with people there. And the person that was asking about the freezing is saying that it's a Tobii Dynavox device.
Oh, a device. Yeah, you still have to actually, they're made by Apple, those devices. And again, I'm happy to meet up if this isn't something that is your kind of area. IT is like the area I studied and stuff too, and I'd be interested in. So I can always meet someone for a chat or whatever, or take the device and edit it for them or update it for them. The Tobii Dynavox devices actually still need updating as well, and to make sure that it's yeah, it's up to date and the software is up to date and stuff like that too. It's an unusual setup. It's with Apple, so.
Great. Thank you so much, CJay, and thanks for everybody and bringing your questions, because the whole webinar was based on trying to answer your questions. And initially I was asked, would we do 2 of these? And then summer came. So I said, I'm happy to do 1, and we'll do 1 more probably in September. Maybe, I don't know, CJay, what do you think of going back to school one? Or
yeah, like, I mean, going back to school and how to make grids around that, I'd be happy to do it. If it's a general AAC, not just Tobii, I'd be more than happy to do that for going back to school as well. I know when you get about a certain device, it's actually a lot easier because I can have on slides exactly how it works, you know, and screenshots and stuff. But if it's a general AAC one around like how to help kids and stuff when they're going back to school, I'd be more than happy to do that too. So
okay,
I mean,
so
just hit Michelle up maybe with some ideas, and I'm happy to kind of see how I can do it.
That's awesome. Yeah. So my suggestions are, because 1, probably this won't happen this summer. A follow-up is unlikely at this moment. It's possible, but it's unlikely. So 1, either contact CJay directly, or 2, email the education@Neurodiversity Ireland email address with what you would like. Because what we do is basically ask parents what they want, and then we try to deliver. So if you want something specific from CJay, like say, I want to know how to edit, or I want a back to school one or something like that, in the education@Neurodiversity Ireland email, and I will respond to that at some point. It just won't be quick. And if you need quick advice and help, then CJay is your person, and you can contact them directly.
Yeah, like I say, WhatsApp's the quickest way to get me. I'll get back to you within a day, and that would be easy. And what is the last question? Sorry.
One for professionals is a really good idea. Thank you, Annie, for that idea.
I get asked that a lot. So in my current school, they want me to do one. So I will be making up a PowerPoint on like how to do some of this stuff. It'll be kind of similar to this though. So even for the professionals, but I guess parents will have already kind of pre-made them. So what I'm thinking is one on just the basics of like how to edit, how to not ruin a parent's work that they've spent ages doing, you know, as well. But how to, like, say, take a picture of the teacher and the SNAs so that you can tell the child, this is who you're working with today, these are your classmates, you know, stuff like that. So I'm going to do something kind of like that for my school, and the importance of using it, and like how to model it. Modeling it is a really big one that I know some parents have asked me for as well. So like I say, if there's any that you want, maybe just hit Michelle up with some ideas, and I can put something together, even if it's for, I know some parents on the last AAC chat were saying they use Grid and Lamp I really personally despise. And what you call it, yeah, I don't know a lot about, because I find it very frustrating, but I'm willing to try and give help with it. Grid I have a lot of experience with as well, so I don't mind, but I really rather this one. So but I'm happy to help in whatever way possible. So yeah, and that sounds like a great idea for teachers and SNAs. It's just finding time that they're willing to come on, because as an SNA myself, it's hard to find time.
Yeah. Okay, you're awesome. Thank you so much. And
no problem at all.
Your doggy gets a lovely cuddle that she's been waiting for an hour. And we'll see the rest of you and others.
Yeah, thank you for the questions, guys, and for joining in. All right, thanks,
bye,
guys.
CJay.
Bye.